and welcome to NPP Hot Seat with Ibrahim Ababou. Today, we're glad to host the man leading South Africa's nuclear region, Mr. Zizamele Mbambo, the Deputy Director General for Nuclear Energy at the Department of Energy. He stands at the forefront of the nation's bold return to nuclear power. Tasked with steering the new nuclear build program, NNBP, he is leading efforts to shape policy, engage industry, and forge international partnerships. As you may already know, South Africa stands at a defining moment in its energy future, with the NNBP gearing up for one of the most ambitious nuclear expansions on the continent, 2,500 megawatts of new capacity to power its future, which is at the heart of its strategy to ensure reliable, clean, and sustainable power for generations to come. We are looking forward to hearing further about South Africa's nuclear game plan and what it means for the country's energy future. Welcome, Zizamele. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Ibrahim and your viewers, and thank you very much for the opportunity to address you in this meeting. So, as you've indicated, my name is Zizamele Mbambo. I'm the Deputy Director General for Nuclear in the Department of Electricity and Energy in South Africa.
Thank you very much, and we are glad to have you with us. My first question, kindly share with us about South Africa's new nuclear build program, as shortened NNBP.
Yes, thank you very much. I think I would like to start by setting out the policy of South Africa in as far as nuclear is concerned. In South Africa, the nuclear is governed through the South African Nuclear Energy Policy of 2008. And that policy of government then set out the government vision and the policy direction in as far as the implementation of the nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. And the policy of government set out that nuclear shall be used for peaceful purposes, and it shall be used for the diversification of a primary energy source. And nuclear shall contribute to the socio-economic development of South Africa for industrialization, job creation, and also skills development. And the government policy is to participate into the full nuclear fuel cycle for peaceful purposes, to participate in all the different industries within the nuclear value chain, that is starting from the mining to the beneficiation of the uranium, to the conversion of uranium, to the enrichment of uranium, to the fuel fabrication, to the generation of electricity, and to the use of the fuel produced in South Africa to power our nuclear reactors, and then to also then manage the waste generated out of this nuclear value chain, which we call it is the back-end management of the nuclear fuel cycle. So as South Africa, we are participating into the full value chain for peaceful purposes. And we've got all the entities that have got various roles, that they have the specific mandate in terms of participating in the work that is done. Now, one of the issues that I think is important just to highlight, now that I've discuss it like this, it's very important just to understand that South Africa was implementing the full nuclear fuel cycle in the past, and that nuclear fuel cycle was then dismantled because it was also for participating in other non-peaceful applications, which is the military applications. It was dismantled. So South Africa is now looking into participating into the whole nuclear value chain only for peaceful purposes. And that it's important, I must underpin that, is only for peaceful purposes. And all our activities, therefore, are governed by our national legislation and also our international obligation. We are participating as South Africa with signatories into a number of international treaties that govern nuclear. The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty is the underpinning treaty that South Africa is a member of. And we also, after we had signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty with the International Atomic Energy Agency, we then signed the Safeguards Agreement that governs how we deal with issues of non-proliferation as South Africa. And we also sign the additional protocol as South Africa with the International Atomic Energy Agency, which provides specific details as to how South Africa would collaborate with the International Atomic Energy Agency to allow the International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors to come to South Africa to conduct their inspection into all South African nuclear activities. And all South African nuclear activities are conducted for peaceful purposes. And as a country, on an annual basis, we submit the declarations to the International Atomic Energy Agency that provides the report in terms of all the activities that are conducted in South Africa for peaceful purposes. So it's very important to underpin this so that you have an understanding of how South Africa as nuclear activities are conducted in the country. And also, what then also is important just to mention here into this conversation is that South Africa is a member state. In fact, we are one of the founding member states of the International Atomic Energy Agency. So South Africa has always been the member of the International Atomic Energy Agency, and we've got a permanent representative of South Africa in the Board of Governors of the International Atomic Energy Agency. And so all our nuclear activities are conducted within the context of peaceful applications of the nuclear, as well as complying with all our international obligations and our international treaties. So we are the member state into the international treaties like the Convention on Nuclear Safety, the amendment to the Convention on Physical Protection of Nuclear Material, we are a member into this, and the Joint Convention, we are the member of all these international treaties and many other treaties that govern the nuclear activities. South Africa is a member into those treaties to make sure that all our nuclear activities are in compliance with our international obligations as well as our laws in the country and our obligations in the country. That's very much important to bring in this context. Now, having provided this context, then I think it's also important then to start talking to you about the different entities that are executing different mandates in the South African nuclear industry. And one, we've got the Eskom. Eskom is our electricity utility company in South Africa. And Eskom is the owner and the operator of the Koeberg nuclear power station. As you know, is that South Africa is the only country in the continent that's got the only operating nuclear power station, and that power station is the Koeberg nuclear power station. And we have safely operated the Koeberg nuclear power station for 40 years now. And just last year in July 2024, the National Nuclear Regulator, which is the regulator, safety regulator in South Africa, granted the license to Eskom to operate Unit 1 for an additional 40 years, for an additional 20 years. That is from now in 2024 up to in 2024 up to 2044. And there's also work that is in progress to also extend the life of Unit 2 of Koeberg nuclear power station. And we are expecting the regulatory decision in November this year in terms of the Eskom application to also extend the life of Unit 2. So work is in progress between Eskom and the regulator in terms of the life extension of Unit 2. Unit 1, as I've already indicated, Eskom has already been granted the license to operate this unit for an additional 20 years. And also Unit 2 is also made an application for a life extension for also an additional 20 years. So that's the work that's happening. So Koeberg remains an integral part of the energy electricity generation fleets with this background that we have provided. So what then means is that as South Africa, nuclear energy is an integral part of the energy mix in South Africa. And with that, we are working as South Africa to expand the nuclear capacity in the country. And there is work happening, as you've already indicated. In South Africa, the electricity generation is guided by the national plan is called the Integrated Resource Plan, which is an electricity generation plan for the country that comprises of the energy mix. It comprises of coal, it comprises of nuclear, it comprises of the renewable energy, it comprises of gas, hydro, and other energy sources that the country is implementing. So at this stage, as you know, we've got the IRP 2019, and that IRP is now approaching its end. There is a revised IRP 2024 that is currently undergoing the consultations for approval, and we are still then awaiting the new revised IRP in terms of what the energy mix would be going forward. But it's important just to indicate that the energy mix of South Africa comprises all of these different energy technologies. We will then know what the outcome in terms of the capacity of all the different energy technologies that will be deployed. So that's the plan that governs the electricity generation in South Africa. Then now looking into the expansion, as you've indicated, there is a 2,500 capacity that was in the IRP 2019. So we will then see what would the revised new IRP come up in terms of the capacity that's allocated to nuclear, because when the IRP 2019 is still in force until the revised IRP is approved. So it's still going through those approval. So, but what is important is to mention that nuclear remains an important part of the South African energy mix going forward. We will only know the capacity once the IRP has been approved. So it remains an important work. And it remains an important part of the energy mix. And we have done a lot of work in South Africa in terms of preparing for the nuclear new build. That's one part of the discussion. Then the next part that I think is important to talk about is that we are having the South African Nuclear Energy Corporation, that is NECSA. And NECSA is an important entity of the state in terms of its mandate in the nuclear industry. And NECSA is operating and is the owner and the operator of the Safari Research Reactor. And as you know, we've just celebrated the 60th anniversary of the Safari Research Reactor in March this year. Safari is an important research reactor in the African continent, and in South Africa in particular, is one of the oldest research reactor that has positioned the country in terms of our research and development. It allows South Africa to remain in the cutting edge of the research and development in the nuclear space. It allows South Africa to produce the radioisotopes which are used for the treatment in cancer in the medical field. And we are one of the leading nations in terms of our supply of radioisotopes locally and globally. We supply more than 60 countries, and we are a leader in terms of our production of radioisotopes that are used globally in the nuclear medical field for treatment of cancer and other ailments. And so NECSA is our integral part and a strategic entity of the state in terms of leading in the research and development and in the production of radioisotopes in this area. And we have embarked on the work in terms of NECSA has embarked on the work in terms of life extension of Safari as it approaches its end of life post 2030, and NECSA is engaging with the regulator in terms of also looking into the life extension of Safari. So those conversations are taking place. But in terms of making sure that South Africa remains the leader in the cutting edge of nuclear research and development, South Africa, through NECSA, has started work for the multi-purpose reactor, which will complement the aging Safari Research Reactor post-2030. And that work is at an advanced stage in terms of the preparations for the multi-purpose reactor, which will be a new reactor in South Africa that will be complementing the Safari Research Reactor. So we are advancing on that work as a country. So I've discussed now the role of NECSA and also the expansion that is taking place in terms of the non-powered applications of nuclear that is advanced by NECSA in the area of Safari, as well as the preparations to build the multi-purpose reactor that will complement the Safari to ensure that South Africa remains in the cutting edge of nuclear research and development, and also in our making sure that we retain our competitive advantage in the supply and the production of radioisotopes that are needed in the nuclear medicine field for the treatment of cancer and other ailments. So we remain the leader in that area, and we will continue in that trajectory. The other important work that NECSA also is mandated to do for South Africa is that NECSA is the leader in terms of research and development, and also in terms of the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle remains the mandate of NECSA, and NECSA is busy doing the research work in terms of supporting South Africa in looking into the re-establishment of the full nuclear fuel cycle for peaceful purposes. So there's work in terms of putting together the strategies, the feasibilities, and all of that. So that's an important work that we are embarking on as South Africa also, to make sure that the policy objectives of becoming self-sufficient is fulfilled for peaceful purposes. And that's the work that is led by NECSA as an entity that is mandated in terms of this work. Then also, what is important is also to understand that in South Africa, we also have the new entity, I'll call it is the new entity, the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Institute, NRWDI. Now, NRWDI is established in terms of the NRWDI Act to be responsible to manage the radioactive waste on a national basis. And I am pleased to report here that recently the National Nuclear Regulator has granted the NRWDI the license to operate the VALPUT. VALPUT is the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Site in South Africa that is authorized or licensed to accommodate low and intermediate radioactive waste in South Africa. And that responsibility now going forward is now going to be the responsibility of NRWDI, who is now will be the owner and the operator of the VALPUT, because they are now the nuclear license holder for the VALPUT site. So there is work that is happening there. And also what then is important is that all the radioactive waste in South Africa is safely stored. As you hear that I have just given you the indication that we've got an entity in South Africa that has got a legal mandate to manage this function. So it's managed by the NRWDI, and all the waste is safely stored in South Africa as a result of having these systems in place and the entities that have got that responsibility. In addition, South Africa has embarked on a project to look into providing a solution to move the spent fuel or the high-level radioactive waste out of nuclear facilities and be stored in an off-site safe storage. And that off-site safe storage, we call it, is a central interim storage facility. And that project is led by NRWDI, the National Radioactive Waste Disposal Institute, is working with other stakeholders and leading in the project for the building of the central interim storage facility. And they are leading that work, and the department is working with NRWDI and other stakeholders, NECSA and Eskom, in terms of advancing that project, which will enable South Africa to move the spent fuel off from the facilities into an off-site storage facility. That work is an advanced stage, and as I've indicated, that NRWDI is leading that work. And it also falls into the part of our nuclear expansion program as South Africa. So as we've indicated, we are expanding from the front end of the nuclear fuel cycle as well as on the back end of the nuclear fuel cycle, so that we can assure that there's a safe storage for radioactive waste that will be generated by the nuclear facilities and going forward in the expansion of the nuclear program. So there is a long-term plan to manage the radioactive waste and also to make sure that we're expanding and we've got a holistic plan around participation in the whole nuclear value chain for peaceful purposes. And that's where we are. And then also what is important is also to mention that also in South Africa, we've got the National Nuclear Regulator, the NNR, which is established in terms of the National Nuclear Regulatory Act 47 of 1999. And the regulator is the safety authority that is in charge in terms of exercising its mandate for regulating all our nuclear facilities in South Africa to ensure that they are safely operated. And I may add that we've got a very experienced regulator in South Africa that has regulated all these nuclear facilities and the nuclear activities in South Africa safely. As you know, I've indicated that all South Africa's facilities are safely operated and they comply with all our national laws, national obligations, and our international obligations. And by the way, what becomes also important is that being the only member, the permanent that has got the permanent seat in the Board of Governors, we are also South Africa participating in a number of activities of the International Atomic Energy Agency, where we collaborate with the IEA. And also, what is important also to mention in terms of the nuclear industry of South Africa, one of the entity that I also needed to mention as part of the nuclear industry in South Africa is that we have one entity that is involved in the area of research and development also, and it's called iThemba Labs. And iThemba Labs is also one of the entities in South Africa that is important in the areas of applications or nuclear in terms of the radioisotope production and all of that. So it's an important entity that we need to make sure that you could appreciate it's part of the nuclear industry in South Africa. Because in South Africa, we are looking and we are also participating, like I said, both in the power generation and also non-power generation applications in health, in the agriculture, in the food security, in the areas of industrial applications, in the areas of water management. So South Africa is participating into all of these areas to ensure that nuclear is used for peaceful purposes and for socio-economic development of South Africa, and we use it for peaceful purposes to all of these areas. And we are the leader in the area of this application in the continent, and also looking into globally in terms of our peaceful applications of nuclear technology. Then, whilst mentioning only this, it's important just also to indicate that we've got a number of universities in South Africa that are producing graduates that are participating in the nuclear training. And that becomes also an important to note that there is capacity that we have in South Africa. Our nuclear facilities and in the areas of generation of power, in the areas of research and development, in the areas of training, we have that capacity. As I've mentioned to you, we've got a number of universities. And as South Africa, what is important and that is that our policy in South Africa is that our institutions will remain open to collaborate and receive the fellows in the African continent to come and train into South Africa's nuclear facilities, to gain knowledge and take back that knowledge into the continent, to use it into their own countries to develop the nuclear programs into those countries. And we are supportive of those initiatives as South Africa, because we understand that whilst as a country we want to become self-sufficient, we also understand that the continent wants to become self-sufficient in the areas of peaceful uses of nuclear. One of the important areas that is important to mention is that as South Africa, we are also a member state of the AFRA agreement. Now, in the AFRA agreement, we are participating with different member states to be able to advance the peaceful uses of nuclear for socio-economic development in the continent, in terms of the skills development, in terms of training on the issues of the non-power applications of nuclear in the areas of health, in the areas of agriculture, in the areas of water management, in the areas of energy planning. We are participating in South Africa together with our sister countries in the continent to advance this question. One also important area that I think is important just to provide is that our regulator in South Africa is also working with other regulators in the continent. There is a group of regulators called iThemba, and our regulator participates in terms of supporting other regulators in the African continent in the areas of skills, in the areas of exchanging of knowledge, in the areas of training and all of that. It's a very important area that we as South Africa, we are providing the expertise in the African continent to demonstrate our support in terms of supporting countries in the continent to embark in the nuclear programs in terms of exchanging knowledge. One of the important issues as part of this partnership and collaboration with all our sister countries in the continent, our brothers and sisters, is that since 2017, South Africa has been able to receive, I think, around more than 200, around 263 fellows from the continent that comes to South Africa for training and in the South African nuclear facilities to advance their skills for peaceful purposes. And we're supportive of this initiative in South Africa. Our doors remain open to collaborate and partner with the countries in the African continent in terms of advancing the nuclear for peaceful purposes, in terms of providing training, skills, development in all the areas where South Africa has got the expertise. One of the important issues to mention is that South Africa is one of the most advanced countries in terms of the nuclear program. The South African nuclear program has got more than 70 years. We are now up to 75 years of nuclear experience and the nuclear expertise. And that expertise positions South Africa well in terms of being the leader in the African continent or on the peaceful uses of nuclear, and collaborating with countries in the continent, and also collaborating with other countries globally. South Africa collaborates with other countries globally on peaceful uses of nuclear, and we have a nuclear cooperation agreement on peaceful uses of nuclear energy with other countries globally and also in the continent. And that allows us to be able to share knowledge, share expertise, and be able to work with other countries. One of the important points to underpin is that nuclear, I always say nuclear is a collaborative international business, and it requires collaboration because as one country, we may not have all the different areas in terms of peaceful uses of nuclears, and therefore we are able, there is a need that we always need to collaborate with other countries on peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and that is underpinned by the South African nuclear energy policy of 2008. As I've indicated, that we as a country, we are a member state to the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, and we are collaborating with the IAEA. As you know, that South Africa is the presidency of the G20 during this year, 2025, and we are collaborating also with the International Atomic Energy Agency in the areas of nuclear energy within the G20 to advance the nuclear energy as part of clean energy technologies within the context of the G20. And what is important, which I could just mention here, as you may know, is that recently South Africa hosted the G20, the third G20, and dealing with the clean energy technologies. And during that meeting here in Sun City, in the northwest province of South Africa, there was also in the margins of the G20, there was a nuclear event that looked into where the International Atomic Energy Agency launched a publication on the outlook of nuclear energy in Africa. And also there was a dialogue on the small modular reactors. as part of an important part of the nuclear technology going forward. So that's the area. And one also important area of nuclear expansion that we are looking at South Africa. South Africa is looking into reviving the Pebble bed modular reactor program. As you would know, is that we were one of the front runners in terms of our development of the Pebble bed modular reactor program. And in 2010, the cabinet took a decision to put the PBMR under care and maintenance, and until its end state has been determined. And now that there is a global increase in or a global growth in the area of small modular reactors as the future of nuclear power generation, and they've got a competitive advantage in terms of what they could be used for various applications, either in the generation of electricity, other in the areas of hydrogen production, hydrogen economy, either in the area of water desalination, other in the areas of process heat. South Africa is taking a decision to revisit the Pebble bed modular reactor program, and the department would be motivating to cabinet to consider to approve that lifting the Pebble bed modular reactor company out of care and maintenance, so that South Africa can continue to further develop the Pebble bed modular reactor technology in South Africa. So that work is currently in progress to look into reviving the Pebble bed modular reactor program in South Africa, to allow South Africa to be amongst the leading countries in the area of development of small modular reactor technology as the future of the technology. And we would, once got a decision of cabinet, then South Africa will announce the decision in terms of what is the decision in terms of taking forward the Pebble bed modular reactor program. I must say that Pebble bed is one of the front runners in the small modular reactors technologies that are important, that South Africa is also part of the South African 2008 nuclear energy policy, and that's why we are looking into revisiting this technology to look into leveraging into the Pebble bed modular reactor technology for South Africa's further development into this area. But it's still under care and maintenance until cabinet approves that it's lifted out of care and maintenance. So it is under care and maintenance since 2010, and now we have embarked on the process to recommend that it be lifted out of care and maintenance, and the final decision will be made by cabinet in this area. Also, what I can just mention is that there is work that the department, together with Eskom and NECSA, is embarking on in terms of transferring the Pebble bed modular reactor company to NECSA, for NECSA to further develop the Pebble bed modular reactor technology for South Africa, subject to cabinet approval for lifting the company out of care and maintenance. So the work is at an advanced stage in that direction. We are looking into getting into the small modular reactors again as South Africa to regain the country's leadership into the small modular reactor technologies. We are aware that globally there is about 80 SMRs that are currently in different stages of development. Some are at a commercial stage, some are at a demonstration phase, some are at a concept design at a concept design phase, and all of this we keep our team involved in terms of understanding the progress in terms of the status in the areas of small modular reactors, and we are involved into that area. So that's where we are in terms of that application, and we are looking into the various technologies in terms of repurposing of coal-fired power plants that will be decommissioned in South Africa post 2030. As you know, that South Africa's energy mix is mainly dominated by coal, and some of our coal fleet will be reaching the end of life post 2030, and we are investigating different technologies that would be used to ensure that we can continue to have the security of energy supply in South Africa, and nuclear is part of the technologies that we are looking to investigate, coal to nuclear possibilities, and we are working to look into that as an option, and we are also looking into gas as the technology, and we are looking into also renewables as the technology. So we're looking into all the different technologies in South Africa, and also we're looking into clean coal technologies as part of the solutions going forward. So there is work that is happening in South Africa to ensure that we contribute in terms of the applications arising out of peaceful uses of nuclear energy for generation of power, to look into what other applications that as South Africa we also would be looking into participate in. Let me stop there and hear from you whether there is more input that you would like to ask.
Thank you very much for this comprehensive analysis, and congratulations on all the progress you have mentioned on the different fields of nuclear. And something you mentioned very important is that South Africa is the leader of nuclear energy in the continent, and that you are open to help other countries, African countries, to grow their nuclear programs. As you know, many African countries are looking to introduce nuclear energy to their mix, and that's something monumental, and that need help of every single player that can give their expertise, and being from the continent is the most important. I would say the most important ones. And also, you mentioned Koeberg. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the electricity from Koeberg is one of the cheapest in the country. And that's something very important to mention, because we keep hearing that nuclear is very expensive, but it's expensive to build or to upfront. But then the electricity generated is cheap and could be very well utilized in the country. And so also you mentioned that you've been working, having preparatory works for the new nuclear good program. So what are the key findings? As I know you have done a feasibility report on the NNBP. So what are the key findings from that report, and how will they influence the roadmap for delivering the 2,500 megawatt target, or another target, as you mentioned? There might be a new target in the future.
Thank you very much for that, and for raising the issue of the costs for the electricity generated from nuclear. As you've correctly put it, is that Koeberg is providing one of the cheapest electricity in South Africa amongst the fleet of power plants of Eskom. And that's very important to underpin that. It is one of the cheapest electricity in the country that is generated from Koeberg. And one also of the important factor that we need to take into account is that it provides clean baseload electricity for the country. And it stabilizes the grid. And also, nuclear industry generally is one of the safest industry in terms of generation of electricity. And because it's highly regulated, it has to comply with national and international obligations in terms of safety and in terms of being regulated by the laws and the different entities that regulate this sector. It's one of the sectors that produces electricity in the most safest manner because of the need for it to comply with all national and international obligations, and also providing highly advanced jobs in the country in terms of having nuclear professionals, the engineers, the artisans, and it provides also the input into the country's economic growth, to the GDP through that technology. So it's very important in South Africa. And also, one of the developments that I need to mention is that as part of our nuclear expansion program is that Eskom, as recently as last week, was granted the record of decision by the Department of Environmental Affairs, Fisheries and Forest to continue building about 4,000 megawatts on the nuclear site that they have applied for the nuclear expansion. And that site is called Deinefontein. And that's the site that is next to Koeberg, but for the new nuclear build program. And that's a positive development that has taken place here in South Africa. And we are working towards that, as we have indicated. So it's part of the preparatory work that is required, and the positive decision for Eskom to then continue with the development of nuclear into that site is quite an important one. And Eskom, as the applicant, is dealing with that. And you had asked in terms of the siting work, so that's part of the nuclear expansion program. In terms of the siting work, we now have got the site authorized by the Department of Environmental Affairs, Fisheries and Forestry for that work. And we are aware also that, as you would know, is that Eskom is also looking into other authorizations for this particular site, and also looking into other sites for the nuclear expansion in South Africa. And that's the work that Eskom is leading. So it's very important, and you've outlined that. And then you had indicated we have conducted the feasibility for the 2,500 program. And that work has been done by the team. And my understanding at this stage, the team has advised me that we are still at 70% of completing the feasibility study. So it has not yet been completed, but there is work is at an advanced stage in terms of proceeding with that work, and it's continuing. So that's where we are in terms of the feasibility for the 2,500 of the nuclear bill program, which is in the IRP 2019. But you would have noted that I indicated that that's in the IRP 2019, and then once a new IRP is promulgated and approved, we will then be implementing in accordance with the new IRP. And we, at this stage, do not know what the final new capacity will be on nuclear in specific, but we will only know it once the IRP is approved as to what the new capacity will be that the country will be looking into to roll out based on what the outcome of the IRP, if it comes out with a new capacity or what would it be. But it's safe to say that currently the Koeberg is part of the energy mix, the electricity that's generated from Koeberg, because we are extending the life of Koeberg to now, in addition, 20 years. That would take Koeberg, by the way, to 60 years of its life. And that's why you have raised the issue of the cheap electricity that is generated by the Koeberg. And also, it's important just to highlight that nuclear energy is one of the cheapest electricity generation technologies. It's got relatively a high capital cost at the beginning, but once the plant has been constructed and is starting to operate, it provides the cheapest electricity because of the stable prices of the fuel, the uranium, and also the maintenance cost of the nuclear power plants. So then it becomes much more competitive to operate, and that's the competitive advantage of nuclear energy in comparison with other baseload electricity generation technologies. It's got that competitive advantage that it provides the clean, cheapest baseload electricity, and also it's got one of the longest design life. Just to mention here for information is that the new generation nuclear reactors, that is generation 3 and generation 3 plus and generation 4, have got a design life of 60 years, right? And these power plants, they can operate for 60 years and can also be extended for an additional 20 years. That's taking it up to 80 years. So that's why we always say that, you know, the nuclear power plants, once they've been, the investment has been paid off, it then becomes a cash cow, like a cash cow, because you pay off the capital cost within, say, 20 years of the operations of the nuclear power plants. And after that, this power plant can operate up to 80 years. So if you look into it, so if you pay off the capital cost within 20 years, so you've got an additional 60 years of generating cheap baseload electricity that is required. And also, one of the important facts about nuclear is that it has now been globally accepted that nuclear is part of clean energy technologies. So, as you know, that in 2023, COP28 took a decision where it was agreed that nuclear is part of clean energy technologies and should be accelerated together with renewables because there is a global acceptance that the target of the net zero, achieving the net zero by 2050 will not be achieved without accelerating nuclear as part of the solution to provide clean electricity, clean baseload electricity. So that's a competitive advantage of nuclear. There is what we call, there is a global realization and the return to realism that nuclear energy is part of the solution if the global community have to achieve the goal of net zero by 2050. And as we expand the nuclear program in South Africa, we're doing it in that context of understanding that nuclear also contributes to reducing the impact of climate change. So that's how important it is from the South African perspective and globally.
Exactly, I totally agree. And also, as you mentioned, that dogma that was against nuclear is fading away. And now there is a clear understanding around the world that nuclear is part of the solution. And as you mentioned, the COP, so basically a pledge have been taken to triple the nuclear capacity, as you mentioned, by 2050. And it's great to note that 4 African nations have signed that pledge already, and others might be coming in the way. So Africa is also taking part of the nuclear renaissance. And my next question, considering coming back to the nuclear program in South Africa, considering the market testing through the RFI process that you have issued, how has industry interest evolved for both conventional NPPs and SMRs?
Yes, thank you very much. I think before I go there on the RFI that we had issued in 2020, let me start by also mentioning the following, is that as South Africa, you would know that there is an organization which is called the AFCON, the nuclear energy, the African Nuclear Energy Commission, that is located in South Africa. And as South Africa, we are the member of AFCON. We are the member of the Pebble Treaty. And within the AFCON, there are member states, and we collaborate with member states that are within the AFCON. So just to highlight that point, it's very important to mention that South Africa, we are working in different multilateral organizations to advance the peaceful uses of nuclear, and we are a member of AFCON. Now, you've asked a very important point about what was the outcome of the request for information that South Africa issued. We issued the request for information in South Africa to make sure that we can gather the market. It's a non-binding information gathering as South Africa to ensure that as a country we remain knowledgeable as a potential customer for the nuclear program into the future. And so we embark on that process to gather information on a number of factors that we wanted to test the market to understand, one, the market appetite to participate into the South African nuclear program, two, to understand the state of advancement of nuclear energy technologies that could be used for electricity power generation, for non-power applications like in the area of water desalination, in the area of process heat, in the area of hydrogen economy and all of this. We were testing the market just to find out what are the different applications and the state of readiness of the different technologies. And we got, and also try to look into what are the schedule in terms of the turnaround, in terms of how long will it take to construct a nuclear power plant. We were engaging the market to gather all this information, and the South African request for information was open to the market, to the public and everybody to see what it is that we were looking to test the market to provide us information. And I must say that we got quite a good information as South Africa as part of that market information gathering, a non-binding exercise. And what we saw is that there are various solutions that the market was putting forward in terms of what could be done and all of that. And we think those are very helpful for us as South Africa to make sure that we become a knowledgeable customer. If we go forward with the nuclear expansion, that information becomes very important for South Africa to have the knowledge into what is available out there in the market and what different approaches South Africa may look and consider going forward into the nuclear program. Very important just to indicate that that was a non-commercially binding information gathering exercise. South Africa has not yet issued the request for proposal for the procurement of the nuclear new build program. That will happen in future once all the preparatory work and all the necessary approvals have been obtained in terms of then issuing the request for proposal into the market. We're looking into that going into the future, not at this stage. We're doing the preparatory work that makes sure that South Africa, we are ready to embark on the nuclear program. But in terms of preparation and all of that, very important, because South Africa has been preparing for the nuclear expansion program for over a number of years. And the information that we have gathered over a number of years has positioned South Africa in a much more competitive position in a manner that enables the country to be ready in terms of the expansion of the nuclear infrastructure. And what is important, by the way, is that South Africa is not a newcomer country in as far as the nuclear power program is concerned. As we've indicated, the country has got over 70 years of nuclear program, of using nuclear program. We've got the most advanced nuclear program in the continent, and we've got the expertise in the area. We've got the institutions, well-established institutions that execute their mandate in accordance with their founding legislation to manage the nuclear activities in the country. And as the Department of Electricity and Energy, we are the custodian of the energy policies of the country. And also with regards to nuclear, we are the custodian of the nuclear energy policy. And we've got different state-owned entities that then implement different mandates that support the safety and the peaceful utilization of nuclear technology. And also we've got other institutions in South Africa that also use nuclear for peaceful purposes in the areas of health, as we have mentioned, in the areas of agriculture, in the areas of water management, in the areas of natural applications for peaceful purposes. And all of this ensure that South Africa remains in the leadership in terms of peaceful utilization of nuclear technology, and we guided and compliance with our national and our international obligations in the nuclear energy space. And that's how nuclear is governed and executed in South Africa. And the future of nuclear energy in South Africa, I can say, is bright, given all the work, the preparatory work for its expansion and ensuring that it's utilized for peaceful purposes.
Totally agree. And it's important to reemphasize that South Africa has been operating safely nuclear power since the mid of 80s. And that's very important to highlight that nuclear can be operated safely in Africa, and to not have that, because I keep hearing from international people that they keep downgrading Africa. They keep saying that Africa is not ready for nuclear, but South Africa has done it, and for many years now. So that's something we need to reemphasize and to proclaim as high as possible. And staying on the same matter, which international partners or vendors countries are currently most active responding to, as you mentioned, South Africa's RFI, the one you have, if you can share the names, of course.
Yeah, I think it's just very important that the response from the request for information was coming from companies and not from the nuclear vendor countries as per the countries. So we received information from most nuclear vendor countries, from most companies that are from the nuclear vendor countries. So that's how I could mention it. We received information from most of the companies that are located from the nuclear vendor countries. And as I've indicated, that South Africa is collaborating on peaceful uses of nuclear energy with most nuclear vendor countries at the government-to-government level in terms of collaboration. And therefore, companies from all these different countries submitted information in terms of what their proposals are, in terms of what the thinking is. And very important just to underscore that the information that was shared as part of this process was shared on a non-binding information. So it's a non-binding information, because South Africa has not embarked on a commercial phase of the program, wherein you only embark on a commercial phase once you've issued the request for proposal, which is a commercially binding document to gather information to finally make a decision on the supplier of technology. We are not at that stage as South Africa. We are still at the stage of gathering information.
Understood. And my last question is still on the same subject. As you mentioned, the proposal, the request for proposal. So what are the anticipated key milestones between now and the issuance of a formal request of proposal for the NNBP?
Yes, I think that's a very important question to ask that. So I think what is important for now is that South Africa is busy with the preparations, and once the preparations have been finalized, then we will be able to then indicate what are the milestones. But one of the key milestones, just to mention here, is the approval of the integrated resource plan becomes a key milestone, because as I've indicated, is that the integrated resource is a government plan of all energy generation technologies. That's when the government set out what would be the energy mix going forward that will be deployed by the country over a number of years. So I think one of the key milestones is for us to first get the approval of the integrated resource plan. When we know that we've got a plan, we know what the capacity is, then it becomes an important one. Then, of course, the approval of other preparatory work that will be required is important. Like you remember, I had indicated to you, we're looking into the feasibility report, and the feasibility report is underpinned by a lot of preparatory work that we have done in South Africa, and all of that will become very important inputs into having the milestones before we can say we're now ready to issue the request for proposal into the market. I think in terms of the timing, very important that we're looking into deploying nuclear in South Africa as part of the expansion program post 2030. As you would know, that the nuclear projects is part of a long lead projects. You require minimum, say, anything from 10 to 12 years to be able, from planning to regulatory approvals, up to procurement, up to the building, the commissioning, and then generating power into the grid using the nuclear technology. So our view as South Africa is that we look into the generation of electricity, the additional nuclear power plants to generate electricity post 2030. The definitive period can only determine once we understand what is the plan from the integrated resource plan, which I indicated is one of the key milestones that would allow South Africa to be able to plan in terms of when the nuclear power plant would be built. So I think that's what we can say at this stage. But very important to indicate that South Africa is committed to expand the nuclear capacity into the country, and work is at an advanced stage looking into the different aspects of the nuclear development into the country in terms of the planning and making sure that South Africa were continuing to occupy the leadership role in the African continent and globally in the area of peaceful uses of nuclear energy. So that's the goal for South Africa, in line with the country's policy that says nuclear shall be used for peaceful purposes, and the country shall use nuclear to become self-sufficient in all the different areas of the nuclear fuel cycle for peaceful purposes. And we are looking into all of these areas as part of this preparation.
That is fantastic. And thank you very much for such a great interview, as we have been hearing about the development of nuclear, not just energy, but even non-power application of nuclear in South Africa, as the progress is huge, from the extension of the Koeberg to the potential extension of Safari, to the multipurpose reactor, to the IRP, to all the great work that has been done, and it's still being done in South Africa. So congratulations on all of that. And as South Africa advances its nuclear program, it is clear that the nation's nuclear ambition are not only about adding megawatts to the grid, but also about securing long-term energy resilience, fostering industrial growth, and meeting climate commitments, as you mentioned. Your vision underscored the importance of strategic planning, global collaboration, and innovative financing in making nuclear power a pillar of South Africa's energy mix. And I'm glad that you have re-emphasized the commitment of South Africa toward implementing nuclear power to the grid. And with the groundwork being laid today, South Africa is positioning itself to remain the continental leader in nuclear energy, paving the way for cleaner, more stable, and prosperous future for South Africa and for the African continent in general. So thank you very much for your enlightening insights. It's been great chatting with you today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, for allowing us as a South Africa team to provide information in terms of the nuclear developments that's taking place in South Africa. And we need to emphasize that South Africa's door remain open to collaborate with the African countries on peaceful uses of nuclear energy. And we work and we are collaborating with all the countries in the continent that share the mutual interest with South Africa on peaceful uses of nuclear energy. We are the members of the African Nuclear Energy Commission, AFCON, and we are collaborating with the countries, member state countries within that multilateral organization, which is situated here in South Africa. And also, we are the member state of the AFRA agreement, wherein African countries collaborate on nuclear matters for peaceful purposes in the area of skills development, in the area of health, in the areas of energy planning, nuclear energy planning, in the areas of water management, in the areas of agriculture. And all of this, we are collaborating within that context with the African countries, our brothers and sisters. And we are working collaboratively with all our brothers and sisters on peaceful uses of nuclear energy in this area. And our doors remain open to assist the continent to make sure that we can provide skills and expertise on peaceful uses of nuclear. And that's our value proposition that we provide to support the continent and working with all our global partners on peaceful uses of energy as an important source of electricity generation for the security of energy supply and also for industrialization. And nuclear, as you've put it, is more important for Africa because in Africa, we've got the issue of the security of energy supply and the energy access, which is an important area that we need to look into. And when you think about it, is that Africa has got the resources for the energy, and we need to look into how we leverage on our energy resources to support the African continent to become self-sufficient on the issues of energy. And so we work closely with the countries in the continent on peaceful uses of nuclear. And thank you very much for providing this opportunity. We remain open to collaborate on peaceful uses of nuclear. Thank you.
Thank you, and wonderful words to close this interview. Thank you very much. And for our audience, stay tuned for our next episodes of NBP Hot Seat soon. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.